Hi guys, this video is about the types of plate boundaries, which we touched on a little bit in the previous video, but we're going to go in more detail here. So I already talked about the tectonic plate boundaries. The whole entire Earth's crust is broken up into plates and they float on top of the mantle. The mantle is melted rock that's underneath the crust. So sometimes my students think that the tectonic plates float on the ocean, but they don't. They float on lava, on the mantle. And then the ocean is on top of the tectonic plates, and the continents are also on top of the tectonic plates. Anyway, they fit together kind of like puzzle pieces, like you can see here in this picture. In fact, let's look for a minute at the South American plate. You can see it has South America on it, but it also has the ocean on it, right? So the whole tectonic plate has the ocean and land on it as well. So they don't float on the ocean, they float on the mantle. Anyways, there's different types of boundaries. The boundary is where two tectonic plates meet. One type is a convergent boundary, which means that the plates are colliding, they're running into each other. Now on the left we have a picture of two continental plates colliding with each other, and when that happens it makes mountains. On the right, we have an oceanic plate, that's this one on the left, colliding with a continental plate. When that happens, oceanic plates are usually made of more dense rock than continental plates. Since they're more dense, they sink, because more dense things sink and less dense things float. So the oceanic plate, more dense, it sinks underneath the continental plate, and the continental plate goes up on top because it's less dense. And then the oceanic plate down here, it's inside the mantle now, and the mantle is really hot. It's hotter than the crust is anyways. So then that rock that went down to the mantle melts, and when it melts it rises because heat rises, and then it often makes volcanoes. So you can see at convergent boundaries, a lot of the times you'll see mountains, but you can also see volcanoes, depending on what type of convergent boundary it is. Okay, so mountains and volcanoes. What I always do, I don't know if you can see me very well, I'm up in the corner, but I always do like actions with my students. So convergent boundary, they're running into each other, making mountains and volcanoes. Let's talk about a subduction zone. This one on the right, that makes volcanoes, that is called a subduction zone. So subduction zone is when one goes under the other, and it is convergent, which means they're running into each other. But the more dense one goes underneath, and then it melts, rises, and makes volcanoes, and then the less dense one goes on top. So it's just a type of convergent boundary that makes volcanoes when one goes under the other. That's a subduction zone. So that's convergent as well, though. Let's talk about divergent. That's when two plates are pulling apart, and it's kind of hard to tell in this picture, but here we have the ocean. So both of these plates are underneath the ocean, and they are moving apart from each other. And when they move apart, that leaves an empty space right here. And then lava from the mantle comes up to fill that empty space. And when it hits the cool ocean water, it cools into new rock. So actually, this is creating new rock. So the youngest rock is in the middle where the ridge is. Over here on the edges, that is rock that was created a long time ago, and it has slowly moved away from the ridge over time as the plates separate, and so it's older rock. But the newest rock is in the middle where the ridge is, because the plates are separating, they leave an empty space, lava comes up and fills the empty space and cools when it hits the cool ocean water, and then it makes new rock. So that's a divergent boundary. You see mid-ocean ridges at divergent boundaries, or if it's not under the ocean, if it's on land, you would see a rift valley on land, but mid-ocean ridges in the ocean. Okay. And then we have transform boundaries. This happens in, like, there's a transform boundary by California. So the two plates are sliding past each other. And when they slide past each other, they're not perfectly straight like this picture. In reality, they're probably a little bit more jagged. And when those jagged edges get caught on each other, sometimes they get caught, build up tension, and then they slip. And when they slip, that's when we get an earthquake. So I'm going to write earthquake on here. because a lot of earthquakes happen at transform boundaries. That's why California gets a lot of earthquakes, because it's really close to a transform boundary like this. And so I think that was all we were going to talk about. Yep, here's my sources. So those are the 4 types of boundaries you need to know. Good luck on the test.